Please excuse the way I look right now. I'm in my studio, my garage, and I came out here to clean and to get set up and ready, and I decided to mix up a whole batch of my thicker medium paints. And so I thought I would kind of show you what that process looks like and take you a little bit through my shelves. Now, my shelves, I have accumulated this paint over time and I'm trying to use it up now. Every time there's a sale or I see a new color, I buy it, and I have a problem with it. I buy everything. I buy all the art supplies and I need to use them. So, and I have some pretty cool ones that I found on my shelf, like the Blackest Black. I have some glow in the dark paints that I want to play with. And I, of course, have a bunch of gel to do the impasto technique. So I have a lot of ideas that are just coming to me. Just walking out my studio makes me feel that way. But I'll show you my table and then I'll show you my shelves. If you don't have all these paint supplies and all of this stuff, please don't feel bad, because I did not either. When I started, I purchased one or two things at a time, and this has just grown. I've been doing this for over 5 years now. And like I said, every time I see a new color or I see a sale online, I'm like, oh, I'll just grab it up now. But it's time. I need to use these paints up. So I'll show you my table and what I'm about to mix, and then I'll show you my shelves. So here is the table, and I've got basically all the color groups here. So I always mix up 2 batches of black, 2 batches of white, and 2 batches of blue, and that's my Prussian blue Payne's Gray at the back. I mix up 1 large batch of each of my metallics, and I need to mix up a silver, I just noticed. And then I've got all these colors. Now, you all know that I love these kind of rainbow type bright colors, but I'm really going to push myself to work in some neutrals, and I have a bunch of greens as well because I don't normally work in greens, so I'm going to try that as well. But I have mixed up so many paints, and I have so many to go already too. So now I'll show you. It's so hot here. Yeah, I have my air conditioning unit back there, but it's still, I just turned it on. It's still hot in here. So next, I'm going to show you my shelves. I've actually cleaned them up a lot, and I'll show you that. So I have my Soho brand on top that I use. So Soho, I do different techniques and I use different paints to get different reactions. So when I'm using paint and water, I will mix either Soho or Creative Inspirations with Winsor & Newton. Winsor & Newton has really good binders in it. The Soho and the Creative Inspiration, not so much. So if I'm using paint and water and I want a metallic and I want cells, I will mix this about 50 or 60% Winsor & Newton to about 50% Soho, and that will give me the cells that I like, or Creative Inspirations, either or. If I am just mixing up paint and water, I use my Amsterdam paints. I had these paints because of my swipe technique course. I was trying out and testing all kinds of different brands of paint as well. I have all of my pearl paints back here in the back. And then I have some fluorescent Soho that I'm going to play around with as well. Now, for Soho and Creative Inspiration brand, if you're just doing a ring pour, or if you're doing, just a regular swipe, those colors work perfect. A straight pour, anything that's like a thicker technique, they work great for those, but not so much by themselves with just paint and water. So that's why I have like so many different brands. Down here, I've got my Arteza paints in the back. So I used to be an Arteza affiliate a long time ago when I started, and I still have a bunch of their paints, but they're tiny, tiny tubes. So I really need to kind of just do that again, and I need to get back into those. These metallics here are my Amsterdam metallics, but I actually don't like using those with paint and water as much. I don't get a cellular reaction with them. And when I paint like on a bare canvas brush paint and pour over them, it ends up cracking. So these are kind of my brush work paints, and then I have my my Arteza I use for brush work as well. And then I had these global paints. This company sent them to me, and I know people in Australia use these quite often, but they are impasto type, and that's what I'm kind of leaning towards getting into next. So I will be using these more often. Now over to have my alcohol ink section up here that I've been playing around with. I've been doing that mostly off camera. And then I have my golden section here. So I use these a lot of times for brush work as well. But I am so excited to get back into some of these other techniques. And then I've got all my creative inspiration at the bottom, and I actually used up a bunch of the containers over there mixing these paints on the table. And again, these I get on sale. When they go on sale and they're like $8 or $9 cheaper, if I'm buying a bunch of them, I just go ahead and buy them. But again, I know I have a lot. I've had people comment, you know, you have so much stuff on your shelves, I'm jealous. Don't be jealous. I have accumulated this stuff over time. I invest, you know, my art is my business, and I invest back into my business. I would never be able to do this. Honestly, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to do this, but I wouldn't be able, you know, if this was just my hobby, I wouldn't be able to have this many supplies, but I invest back into my business, and it's just kind of grown over time. So I am very excited. I mix up sets at a time. So I'm going to mix up what's on my table. I'll show you that one. I'm going to mix up what's on my table. I already have all my paint and water mixed up over there. So I'm going to mix up what's on my table. And my arm is probably going to fall off after this. And is for it. So I want to go through and potentially do like a series starting from scratch. So like going back to the basics, the things that I used to do. So flip cups and swipes with silicone and all of those things, to really just kind of fall in love with those techniques again as well, because they have some really cool results. So I've been doing swipes for a really long time. I have my swipe course out, and I absolutely love them, and I'm not going to stop doing them. But I think it's fun sometimes to revisit other techniques and just to see, you know, how far I've come and what have I learned, and can I apply any of that? So I think that that'll be hopefully really fun for you all to watch as well. So we'll see. But I just wanted to say thank you, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you. And I had so much fun seeing some of you. I'm going to be editing an Artie Gras video as well, and I will get that together. But I just wanted to share. I was out in my studio, and I guess maybe I missed you. It sounds so silly because I'm literally talking to a camera, but, you know, I like to share my art journey and my art process. So I will see you in my next video, and I love you all. Happy painting. Oh my goodness. It took me 2 days to mix all of this. So I started at like 6 o'clock at night or so, and I didn't end until like 1:30 in the morning. Then I came back the next day and started again, and it took me a few more hours. But I am finished mixing this type of pouring medium with paint, and I do this for each of my sets, but my others are already mixed up. So I hope that you'll stay tuned for the videos that I'm going to make with these colors coming soon. But I'll show you and give you a couple maybe little tips as well about the containers that I use and how I did it. So here are, so a couple things happened. I ran out of Floetrol halfway through, and I had to literally run to Home Depot at like 9 o'clock at night before they closed. And I mean, it was a lot of containers of Floetrol, but you saw there wasn't that much paint in the bottom. So people always say, oh, it takes so much paint. It's really the pouring medium, which is not as expensive, and depending on what you use, I should say, and expensive is relative, of course. And the gloss medium and water, that actually fills the containers up. So you can see almost all of these are filled to the top. Now, I use TCP cups It looks like that right there. There's tons of different types. I get mine off Amazon. I've got them in my Amazon store. They work really well to peel the paint out if it has gloss medium or even Floetrol in it. For paint and water, it takes a little more care to actually peel the paint out of them. So there are these pieces that will stick out of or stick to the sides of the cup, and those are really hard to peel out, and I don't recommend you washing these in the sink. I try to wash as little in the sink as possible. So so it's good to kind of wipe around those edges with just a paper towel or a cloth, so that the paint, as you use the paint in the container, your sides stay clean. So I didn't do that with this one, so this one's going to be difficult. And some of them I do end up throwing away after I use them. You can soak them in a bucket and wipe them out as well. I'll show you my little bucket that I have for my my sieves, my sifters. But the other thing that happened is that I ran out of lids. So I ordered more of these and more lids. But I ended up running out of lids halfway through as well. So luckily I always keep press and seal in the studio as well. Just in case before I started using these, if I had leftover paints, I would just put the press and seal on top. So that is sealed tight, and no air besides what's already in there will get in. And so my lids will come in a couple of days. The other thing that I do is I do strain them after I mix them, because look, this isn't Floetrol. This is like little, bits of paint that don't mix through and things like that. So all I do is kind of twist this off, and then I just wipe it. After I get all the stuff out of there, I wipe it off with a paper towel, and I can reuse this sifter over and over again. Now, after I am done with this, I actually, let me see, I have one right here. I actually just let it sit. I take these out eventually, but I let it sit, and you can see, so the water level started here. I'm in Florida, and so it will literally, the water will just start to evaporate down. And then you can either, you can throw this away, don't flush it and don't put it down the drain, or you can get like a cheesecloth and sift out all the particles of it. So try, I'm not perfect, but I try to minimize, as much on the environment as possible, but this still goes into the trash afterwards, but at least it's whole paint particles instead. So so that's what I do for my sifters. And then over here, the ones that still wet. The ones that I mixed in, but then strained out into a new cup, I let these dry and peel the paint out of those as well. So like this one, the paint will peel really well. This one, the ones that have it high at the sides, this one's going to take a lot more work, but you can definitely do it out of there as well. So that's how I try to cut down on using so many, plastic disposable cups. But again, I'm not perfect. And I'm, using these things to do what I enjoy and what I love. So a couple other things, as far as using a garden glove really helps, because mixing so much. Some people have said that they use the chemistry set that has the little pellet in the bottom to mix. So that's a great idea too. But I literally use just a couple of sticks and just keep wiping them off over and over again and peeling the paint off of them. And you can reuse them multiple times, so you don't have to waste on that. And then, like I said, the glove, I just mix them with filtered water from my refrigerator, or you could use distilled water, but I didn't have it. So this says purified water, but I think that was originally what I started with, and then I've just mixed with my filtered water. And then my caps, I also reuse, but you'll want to get in there and peel the paint off. And honestly, if you did this ahead of time, after each time you paint, I'm just so not good at it. I paint so much in a day, and then I'm just I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I just put my lids on and leave. But if you actually wipe your lids off and clean everything up before you put them on, then they'll be in much better condition. But I normally take time as well and peel all of those out. And it's kind of therapeutic for me to do that too. I have all my paint stands and I peel the paint out of those as well. And then for the jugs, you can see it on some of them. I make sure to write what the medium is, because I've had that happen quite often, that I completely forget if this has Floetrol only, Floetrol gloss medium, if it has satin enamel in it, if it's just paint and water, and you can kind of tell by consistency, but not for all of them. So just a couple more, little tips for mixing and prepping and making sure that you're set up for success. So that is how I mix my paints. And let me know if you liked this kind of just like rough, unedited kind of behind the scenes type video of the things that I do. I thought I wanted to share with you. Why not just go ahead and like video the process? It would have been a 8-hour video if I had videoed the whole thing. So, but I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Love you all. Happy painting.